social slime, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one lives countries, laugh to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social side, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. See the shit, force a bear, fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one leaves countries, lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah, coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Game On here on UCY.TV, the best little network on the internet. I love saying that, you know. I really do. Because I really like this network. And I like the people that hang out on it. And I like, I'm going to say most of the hosts. And I just like the way this thing's run. I really, truly do. Tonight, we're going to beat up on a politician pretty hard. I guess we're going to end up suing him for slander. I'm going to sue him for fraud. And he brought about himself, and it's an interesting story. His name is Randy Hillier. He's MPP for Lanark County, I believe, in eastern Ontario. And Randy was one of the co-founders of the Landowners Association. If you're not familiar with it, it was an association. I was a member of it for a while, but it didn't take long for me to catch on that it was just a way for the Conservative Party to gather membership and voters. And we all know that every politician that ever lived is a liar. And their friends, the lawyers, are also liars, and their friends, the bankers, are also lawyers. And most of the cabinets, the majority of the people in any cabinet, actually the majority of people in any government are lawyers. And that's not by chance or by mistake. That's the way our system was set up. And that's just the way it is. Now, Randy Hillier, we have a Bill 100. I haven't even looked at the bill yet. I don't have to. I heard some news coming north of here. It's called Bruce Trail, up around Owen Sound there, Niagara Escarpment stuff, that this Bill 100, the people are worried it's going to undermine their property rights. Well, yeah, it will. And I only have to read the bill. But Randy, some of his people up there were taking exception and got a hold of Randy to try to discuss this. Now, Randy, I don't know. I'll have to check. I think he may have unfriended me over there on Facebook today, which would be unfortunate. I guess he's running, deservedly so. But we're going to go get him. He can run, but he can't hide. We're going to take him down. And if you're listening, Randy, go get your lawyer friends because you're going to need them. Now, what this is about is I got to go find this thing here right away quick. Where are we? Here we go. Now, there's a piece here that he wrote people were quite concerned about what this Bill 100 would do to their property. Now, Randy took it upon himself, and this is what it says on his Facebook, there has been much misinformation spread about Bill 100, and I wanted to set things straight. Bill 100 creates a new legal mechanism, okay, and you got to watch that word mechanism because it was God, what the hell is that? Warburg, and Paul or James, one of the two. Warburg, who in the 1950 Senate hearing said that what we need, we're going to have world government by consent or by conquest. Libya and over that way is a perfect example of conquest. We're going to have it by consent or by conquest, but we need a mechanism, okay? And this is, you got to be careful with the word mechanism because what it means is basically they're putting the screws on you. So he says, I wanted to set things straight. Bill 100 creates a new legal mechanism, not lawful mechanism, legal mechanism, which is corporate. Legal and law are opposite poles. They have nothing whatsoever to do with one another. Legal is a complete and total fraud set up by the bar to gain control of everything and everybody on the planet. So it's a new legal mechanism that provides greater certainty, says Randy, to trail associations and to private landowners over the use of land. However, it is voluntary and requires mutual consent. If you don't consent, well, then it will come in and conquest the snot out of you. There are more details in the rest of the article. It's a great read, says Randy. Now, this is in the Lanark Era newspaper. Hillier pans landowner views on provincial trails bill. Now, it's the Landowners Association that's upset about this bill. Randy was one of the co-founders of the landowners, and in this article, which I'm going to go through, it's a fairly short article, he attempts to take the landowners, of which he created, to task. And so I'm just going to go through some of this stuff. This is politics, folks, and at its finest. These people are absolute liars. Now, the gist on the of the Landowners Association, of which he was a co-founder of, their signs say, "This land is our land. Back off, government." Okay. Now, this was created shortly after, I think, McGuinty came to power, who was a liberal, and has been liberal ever since. So the conservatives are quite ticked off about the liberals and what they're doing. So we start up this Landowners Association. We pump the hell out of it. We tell everybody that the liberals are bad because they're taking away your property rights and that. And they're just doing terrible things, like they're putting up windmills all over the place, which I find rather ridiculous. It's like people can't read anymore. I ran in the 2007 election in Ontario, in the provincial election, as an independent, and the playbook, the policy book, the election handbook of the which wasn't widely distributed to the general public, and the general public would never read something like that. It would be too difficult for them. In that manual, election book, it stated specifically that if elected, John Tory was the leader at that time. He failed, but now he's the mayor of Toronto. This is how these guys, it's all a family compact, basically. So they just keep moving around. And but in that Tory handbook, it stated specifically that if elected, the Conservatives would put more wind into Ontario than the Liberals. And most Conservatives never heard that, don't know it. They just go by what they're told because, both sides. I'm on this wing, you're on that wing, and we will fight back and forth, and we will run across the back of the board till we get this wing or that wing in control. And but the wings keep flapping, and you're going for a ride to the same destination, of which nobody in their right mind would want to arrive at. All you have to do is go back to the 50 Senate hearings, and you will find out you don't want to ride this bird into the conclusion. Anyways, that's a counselor who was murdered. Okay, we'll let that one slide. Good old Ontario, eh? Anyways, Hillier Pan's landowner views on provincial trails bill. Now, he was a co-founder of this, and he said that this land is our land, back off government. That is the whole basis of the Landowners Association, and it's rural Ontario. And this is, I told these guys not long after I became a member that this is just a collection deal for new members and conservative votes. That's all this is. They don't give a damn about you. Oh, yeah, they care about us. No, they don't. You don't get it. You don't want to get it. You're blinded by what you want to believe. And that goes back to one of the co-founders of Greenpeace, who said it doesn't matter what is true. It only matters what people believe is true. So they conned the landowners, who were getting banged around pretty good and have been for a very long time now, that it was actually the Liberals that were the problem, and the Landowners Association is here to benefit those being beat up by the Liberals. Nothing could be further from the truth. Anyways, let me see what he's got to say here. I haven't read the article yet, but I'm going to right now. And if I can get it pounded up here high enough so I can actually read the damn thing. Okay, Randy Hillier doesn't mince words as he dismantles the Ontario Landowners Association argument about the proposed trail bill making its way through the Ontario government's approval process. The Lanark, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington member of provincial parliament says the landowners group has misled the public on the benefits and drawbacks of Bill 100, which in part would regulate easements on private property. It's their inability to understand the English language, or their inability to understand legal terminology, Hillier said. Well, he's an electrician by trade, okay? So he, I'm sure, has a much better ability to understand the English language and the legal terminology than the rest of the people. He's a friggin' electrician by trade. But then again, he would have been a member of the International Electricians. So that group, all unions are tied directly to the UN and are doing the bidding of the UN. Not the guy down on the ground working, as a rule, but the union bosses and that are all tied to the hip of this nonsensical stuff that's coming at us from the United Nations. Look it up, all of them. There's a union out there that's not tied to this. And they membership usually does what the leadership asks it to do. Anyways, Hillier, I've often seen it with the present-day Landowners Association. So he's taken a miserable shot at the very group that he created. Hopefully somewhere in here it will make mention that he was involved in the creation of it, but I got a bad feeling that ain't going to happen. It may. Let's go through this. He stressed the Bill 100, which has made it through the first reading, as yet to be debated, as a positive bill for property owners and land users, such as snowmobile clubs. It creates a new legal mechanism that provides greater certainty to trail associations and to private landowners over the use of land, Hillier explained. So he has the capacity, apparently, to understand the English language. I don't think so. And also the ability to understand legal terminology. I don't think so. But he says he does. So in the past, he noted property owners and groups have agreed on property use by handshake or informal agreement. Far from eroding property owners' rights, Hillier added the bill would give them more control by allowing them to set limits on easements. A letter in February 2nd Lanark era by Elizabeth Marshall, the Director of Research for the Ontario Landowners Association, said the proposed legislature would not allow property owners to retain the right to shut down the trails if they want or need to. This easement cannot be removed by the private property owner. It can only be removed by an eligible body, which will be some sort of a non-elected board or committee. It's communism. Hillier said the statements from Marshall are wrong and misleading. Obviously, Randy can't read English or understand legal terminology. Suggesting that easements can be imposed on private landowners and nothing could be further from the truth, he said, is not based in fact. Actually, it is based in fact, but then Randy is a Trojan horse. Randy is a politician, and we all know that every politician is a liar. In fact, I was asked to run for the Conservative Party after I ran as an independent. He said I had a fantastic future as a politician because he had watched the way I operated the entire way through, and we did a hell of a pile of public meetings and that throughout the election. And he said I have a very, I could have an extremely successful future in politics, which I had to explain to the guy that that's not possible. And he said, why not? I've been watching you. You do have a very good future in politics. And I said, well, not really, because I can't qualify for it. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, I don't have the ability to smile at someone while I'm lying to them. And at least he was honest enough to say, I get your point, but if you ever change your mind, give me a call, because I'm telling you, you got a great future in politics. So if I wish to smile and lie at people, like Randy Hillier apparently likes to do, then I too would have a great future in politics. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you tonight and not sitting in a legislature somewhere, because I can't do it. I have a moral compass, of which apparently politicians and lawyers and bankers do not. They live in an amoral world. Anyways, on with this nonsense. He says nothing in the legislation imposes easements on anyone. While it does allow property owners to set limitation use of the trail over their property until you get a consensus somewhere, and then that's out the window. In the current legislation, easements were exhaustive with no ability to restrict the time of year explained. He used an example of a farm field which a farmer agrees to allow a snowmobile club to use in the winter but not during the cropping months. So this is a big win for everyone, he says. It now allows us to put greater covenants or greater restrictions to the easements. He said the snowmobile club, such as the local Snow Road Snowmobile Club, will also have greater certainty of trail use under the proposed legislation. A handshake agreement doesn't give much certainty of use, he said. Well, actually, Randy, it does. You see, in the moral world, not your amoral world, but in the moral world, a handshake is considered a contract between two parties. Okay? That is called good faith. All right? And it is between two men, or man and a woman, or two women, or whatever. These are two moral people that came to an agreement with each other, and moral people stand by their agreements. So we don't need a bunch of legislation on snowmobile trails, whether or not you can come across my property or not. But anyways, he goes on and says, he pointed out that if an easement agreement is reached for a 5-year term, that will be registered on the land's title, even if it is sold. The new property owner would see the agreement clearly spelled out as opposed to an informal handshake agreement that may or may not be mentioned and comes as a surprise when winter approaches and snowmobilers arrive. So all in all, I think it is a reasonable, practical, and beneficial way to increase recreational use and protection, Hillier said, noting with a laugh that he doesn't often or doesn't always or often agree with legislation put forward by the Liberal government. Whenever there's misinformation or dishonest information put forward, it does rightfully so cause anxiety, he stressed, pointing to the need for further investigation and independent verification. He admitted that he hadn't read the bill's content. I'm sorry. He admitted that he hadn't read the bill's content at first reading, waiting until closer to debate. When I saw these outlandish claims, I said, I'll take a look and read the legislation. Now, how did he know they were outrageous claims if he hadn't already read the proposed legislation? He couldn't have. But then he's a politician. He doesn't care what comes out of his mouth. He's depending on people to be stupid, basically. But this time, I'm happy to say a few people have something to say about this. But I'll finish this. There's only a couple paragraphs left. He said the Landowners Association has made false claims in the past using the Crown patents as an example. The association encouraged property owners to apply for their Crown patents in an effort to protect their land. But Hillier said that has led some people to believe that they didn't have to follow the law. Well, you're not following the law. You're following corporate rules and regulations, okay? Corporate policy. You're not following the law. Law and legal have nothing whatsoever to do with each other. But the boys in play like to mix them together so that people assume that law and legal mean the same damn thing. That is a deception. When you break the law, you break the law, he stressed. There's many laws that I disagree with, that I think are foolish, unnecessary, and intrusive, but they remain the law. What a dick, eh? So that's his statement on that. Now, I'm going to run through a few of these replies to his nonsense on his Facebook. This Dale Kitchenson, it says, it's unfortunate we have to question each and everything this government does and question it again, but understandably, since they've shown nothing they say or do can be trusted. Now, okay, so this is obviously conservative, firing rocks at the liberals, not understanding that they're the wings on the same damn bird. Now, Peggy Tupper here says it may start out as voluntary, but you cannot trust a liberal. It's called a wedge. They will make it mandatory down the road. Property owners have no rights in Ontario. Another conservative. But as we went through this, her attitude seemed to start to change. She was hooked up on this right-left thing. So Randy Hillier replies to Peggy, there are no mechanisms in this bill that are not voluntary. If they come out with a coercive or compulsory bill, then that would be the time to oppose. No, you oppose it before they get the foot in the door. Peggy writes back, it's a wedge. Just wait. They will quietly change the rules later. You know they cannot be trusted. Now, she's still a conservative at this point. And Hillier writes back, it's not a matter of trust, but a matter of fact, not fiction. Well, the entire government is a fiction, okay? So Randy, once again, throws his nonsense out there. Liberals are masters. This is Peggy again. Liberals are masters of doublespeak. Wasted money is called an investment. A tax increase is called a fee. They write things to be ambiguous and lead you to think one thing, but it allows something else. A historical designation is supposedly voluntary, but the liberal do-gooders are out marking homes to be put on a list. Once a property is designated, you cannot even paint the bathroom without color approval from the authorities. Now, still picking on the liberals here. Randy, who is a conservative, talks to Peggy, who's a conservative. Read the bill, Peggy. It is voluntary. What part of voluntary scares you? So now he is supporting the liberal bill. Okay, he's a conservative. But they're not conservatives. They're not liberals. They're UN minions. They're one world order people. They're liars. So Randy Hillier writes again, this is the first tangible step that improves property rights in my time. Horse's ass. Now Derek Morin weighs in here and he says, Lawrence Ben Easler once said on AM 640, as I recall, that every square inch of land in this country belongs to the Crown. So aren't the property rights we're talking about here the right of possession, the right of disposal, and the right of enjoyment? And the Crown gets usufruct right. that's why Section 355 of the as City of Toronto Act talks about mining rights. Now, Randy weighs in again. This is the MPP from Lanark. And he says Canada does belong to the Crown. Otherwise, we would have 35 million sovereign nations, one nation for each plot of land. However, this bill improves and elevates property rights and does not diminish them. Now, this is a guy who is saying when he started Landowners Association, and the sign, the famous sign, and it's a good-looking sign, don't get me wrong. That's one of the things that attracted me to this in the first place with this sign. It's a very nice sign. And it says, "This is our land. Back off government." Well, apparently it's not our land, says Randy. It belongs to the Crown. Well, did you not know when you started Landowners Association, Randy? And here you are bad-mouthing the very group of people you started to encourage them to strengthen their land rights. When in fact they don't have any land rights, never did have any land rights, because according to you, the Crown owns every inch of land in this country. Okay? So the man is a nutcase and a liar. Now, Derek writes, this bill should aim to handcuff and shackle municipal scum like the City of Toronto, which uses the same tactics as Walter White's wife did in Breaking Bad to swindle that Bodna character out of his car wash to try and steal someone's house from them under the color of law. There's a reason section 108.2 bracket 12 of the Courts of Justice says relief against the municipality. Now, this is where I weigh in, and this is why I'm going to sue the son of a bitch. I said, Randy, this bill is based on Agenda 21. If you don't get it, then you're too stupid to sit in the House. But then no one sitting in the House can represent the people. You and the rest took an oath to serve the Queen Crown Corporation. That's a fact. The people can't even vote. This is a fact. They think they are registering to vote, but they can't, as the legal system does not recognize the man or the woman. They act as agent proxy for the legal entity. When they mark the ballot, they are not making a proxy vote on behalf of the legal entity. That is also a fact. This is only done in the case of corporate voting, of which Ontario is a corporation. Queen is the head of state, and Canada is a member state of the UN. So the bill is most definitely a product of the UN Agenda 21. What's not sustainable, Randy? Private property. Why? Well, go look at the preamble of the 1976 Conference on Human Settlements, Vancouver. Private property is a form of social injustice. Look it up, Randy. Now, I get some silly replies now from Randy Hillier, the member, conservative member from Lanark, who started the Landowners Association with the sign, said, "This is our land." Apparently not. Randy is now saying it's the Crown's land, and that's a good thing somehow, and that we're all subject to the Crown, and the Crown is a fictional entity. So we're subject to a fictional entity, and the fictional entity owns all the land, and somehow this fictional entity gives us a bundle of rights to use and enjoy the land and pay taxes and mortgages on this shit. Anyways, Randy replies to me, and this is his reply, and this is from a member of Parliament in Ontario, a very brilliant man indeed. And his reply is, blah, 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 conspiracies. Agenda 21, oh yeah, the other boogeyman lurking in every statue. Good grief. And this is from the MPP from Lanark. And so I wrote him back, nice try, Randy. You know what's going on, and you know who you represent, and it ain't the people. In case you missed it, Randy, Brian Mulroney, Conservative Federal, signed Canada to Agenda 21 in 1992. And that's a little conservative history for you, Randy, if you missed it, being so bright and all. And then some guy, this Dick Lee, writes, and everything that he writes after Randy wrote the blah, blah, blah statement, this Lee Dickley writes, nut bars are out today, must be to snow. And there's only one like on that, and that is from Randy Hilliard. And then I get another one here from Lee Dickey. Ah, yes, and I'm talking about the Canada Agenda 2192, which Brian Mulroney signed on, and Lee Dickey goes, ah, yes, the non-binding, voluntarily implemented action plan that everyone ignores being non-binding and voluntary and all. And again, Randy liked that statement from Lee Dickley. And when I looked up Lee Dickley actually lives in frickin' Russia. And Randy is, I don't know if he's good friends with this Lee Dickley or what. Maybe Randy Hillier is a Russian. Because the whole idea was to Sovietize the West. Well, actually America, but that takes in the West. And that is put forward very well by Norman Dodds of the Reese Commission. When the Ford guy says, like, what are you guys doing? Well, we're trying to figure out what you guys are doing, the tax-exempt foundations. And the guy from Ford said, well, that's simple. We're trying to Sovietize America. And America is North America, South America, the West in general. So I wrote back to Lee, either you're a gatekeeper, this is before I found out the guys in Russia, or not too well informed. Agenda 20 is being implemented by every level of government. Fact, global to local is the plan. The local Agenda 21 planning guide with the second forward by Elizabeth Dowdeswell, now Ontario Lieutenant Governor, chosen by Stephen Harper, another conservative prime minister. So the first, Mulroney was our prime minister, not our prime minister, the Crown's prime minister. In 1992, signed it on, and then he appointed Maurice Strong, the founder of all this garbage. Well, he wasn't. He was really the mouthpiece for the tax-exempt foundations and the globalists and the bankers and whatnot. And then just before he went out of power, Stephen Harper, who is another conservative prime minister, appoints Elizabeth Dowdeswell, who wrote the second forward in the local Agenda 21 planning guide. Okay, it's a planning guide on how to implement Agenda 21 at the local level. It's not a conspiracy, Randy, and so it was chosen by Stephen Harper, the first forward by Maurice Strong, whom Mulroney appointed to the Privy Council. That's the Queen's Council. Read the PDF, an instructional manual on how to implement Agenda 21. And Elizabeth Dowdeswell, where did she come from? Well, she was the executive director of the United Nations Environment Program known as UNEP. Let's see here. Who liked this? Randy Hillier liked this. So now I got this Dickley guy taking a run at me. And so when I found, let me see what I got here. Now this I like, okay? I hear this actually from a lot of people. This is from this Lee Dickley guy again. And apparently this comment, again, was liked by Randy Hillier. It says, I don't know what a gatekeeper is, because I asked him if he was a gatekeeper. Is, and I'm pretty informed on things. I don't fall for the sky is falling aliens coming to probe me crap. I don't remember anybody in this run discussing any about falling aliens coming to probe someone, but this is the kind of nonsense you get from these people. Because frankly, if there was really some sort of secret agenda to conspire to take all our lands, and that was signed over 20 frickin' years ago, well, I'll be long dead before they get around to actually doing anything. This has been the smoke and mirrors on the UN since it bloody well got started. One, that they don't have any power. Once it's all voluntary, and the other thing is, oh well, I'll probably be long dead before they implement any of this stuff. So he's not saying they're not going to implement it. He said, I'll probably be long dead. And he doesn't care because obviously he's a communist. I got better and real things to worry about other than UN non-binding agreement on sustainable development. You can bitch about the waste of money that is the UN, but claim they're actually going to accomplish anything. Come on, man. Their mission is just to do nothing and get paid. It's a cushy job that I would like to have. Typical gatekeeper communist. And again, Randy Hillier thinks that's a good comment on the subject of Bill 100. And I asked Dickie once I went to his Facebook, how's the weather in Russia? And he writes back, what part of Russia? It's a big country. Well, your Facebook says you live in Russia, so you would know better than I. Yes, because a Facebook profile is so trustworthy. And again, Randy Hillier likes this. Now, where did I... Okay, now Peggy Tupper, who was in this at the beginning, is a conservative. You know she's a conservative by her posts here and her responses. And she says, Harper did not have anything to do with choosing Dowdeswell. That would be Kathleen Wynne. Well, sorry, Peggy. You know, so I had to go get it for her. Prime Minister Stephen Harper has appointed environmentalist Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Ontario's new lieutenant governor. Her service career has spanned provincial, federal, and international borders. She served as Deputy Minister of Culture and Youth in Saskatchewan and was later Assistant Deputy Minister at Environment Canada. She's also been Executive Director of United Nations Environment Program. And this is from City News, Toronto. So Peggy has to write back now and goes, you're right, I didn't know that. That's the problem, people. That's the problem. I didn't know that. You're a devout conservative, but you don't follow you just follow this crap because the conservative, you see, there's two pieces to a brain. You got left and right. Okay? That's why you have a left party and a right party. Okay? So they're all telling you the same thing, but some of it resonates better in the left brain, to left brain people, and some of it resonates better in the right brain people, so they write for right and left brains. Okay, but they're sending you the same story, they just construct it so the right brain gets it over here and the left brain gets it over here, so now you're going to vote left and you're going to vote right. But the same bird, same wings. Two different wings, but they're going to take you to the same damn place. And I actually told her, I said, actually Canadians know very little about history past or present, and you want to thank your public school system, media, and government for our lack of knowledge. You see, knowledge is power, and us having knowledge is not to their benefit. Okay, that's why you gotta go and read documents, not freaking newspapers, Anyways, I'm gonna get done with this pretty quick here. Peggy writes me back, I assume that a lieutenant governor, which is provincial, would be chosen by the provincial premier. Wrong. Of course, the federal government general would be chosen by the PM. Actually, that is actually not true. Most people do not know the separation of provincial and federal responsibilities. Some are so uninformed that they call their MP about a local stop sign. And let's see here now. Darlene Banning liked my thing about Canadians knowing very little. The MPP didn't like it. And down here, no, he didn't like that one either. And now Derek Morton weighs in again. He says, I think I remember reading somewhere that technically the lieutenant governor is the CEO of the province of Ontario. Well, that's not quite right, Derek. Okay, the lieutenant governor or the governor general are in place of Queen. It's actually as the Queen sitting there. Okay, it's the Queen's agent, the Queen's proxy, and is given the power to ascend legislation. Okay, because the Queen can't sign this much paperwork. She's getting old. Actually, the Queen is the head of state. The Premier of Ontario, Kathleen, is actually the CEO, and the Cabinet is the board of directors of the corporation known as Ontario. And that's a fact. But according to Randy Hillier, who accuses other people of not being able to understand what they read or being able to understand legal jargon, Randy is proof positive that he's an idiot because, no, he can't himself. But I'm going to take him to task on some of this stuff, and I'm going to sue him because I was a member of the Landowners Association, and the entire Landowners Association, the creation of it was a deception, which is a fraud, to deceive the good people of rural Ontario, that this guy had actually started an association in order to help protect land rights, when in fact he's just another freaking player. Otherwise, he would have never got elected. And he must know the rules and regulations of this stuff because he knows he has to take an oath. Once elected, he has to take an oath to serve the Queen, Crown, and Corporation. And he can't be beholden to two masters. And the Queen, Crown, Corporation are basically all one entity. It's a legal formation. Nowhere did anybody take an oath to represent the people or to serve the people. But Randy apparently can't read, can't understand what he reads, and apparently has no ability whatsoever to understand legalese. And this is what all of our government is made up of. And it's a complete and total deception to deceive the people. Anyways, the last comment on this is from Penny McNeely, and she says, to me, you are bang on. I said most of these words yesterday. Thanks for saying them publicly. Well done. My replies to Hillier from the weekend are all gone, buried somewhere on his Facebook. But I can't find them anymore. So that's how this stuff operates, folks. And, if you're an American and you're worried about the Bundys and the Hammonds and that, no difference, say, stateside. There is not one man or woman in any of your houses that represent the people. None of them. Get over it. Now, I did find... I don't even know what time it is here. I did find it. I'm hooked up with this book thing that I was looking for a book, an old book somewhere. I was just searching for some stuff, and I ran into this site that had apparently a bunch of old books that you could access, and so now they send me a new book or a bunch of books each day, and I actually downloaded a book last night regarding the silver coin, the silver as a payment on bonds and stuff. And if I could find that, I'd really like to put that in the let me see. I'm not even sure. Oh, I know where I can find it. I sent it to somebody yesterday or the day before, so let me try and dig that out. It's a very interesting book. It's only 40 pages long, so nobody can not read it. It's not like some of the stuff that we go through, which are 1,000 pages. I wonder if I can... I highly doubt if I can drag that. Well, let me see. Well, maybe I can do it this way. Maybe I can open it, can I? Show in folder. Okay, let's see if we can dig it out that way. Now, I don't know if I'm going to have to post this up or I can actually get this into... okay, I don't know that I can get this into the chat. Anyways, the title of the book... my computer's starting to seize up here. Oh, it's going to open it up there too, maybe. Okay. Oh, this is getting hung up on me. Anyways, the book is a classic, a part of the classic reprint series, and it's called Bondholders' Conspiracy to Demonetize Silver. Legislation affecting national debt and gold and silver, unfaithful Treasury officials, hostility of national banks, independent financial policy for the United States, free coinage, or enforcement of existing laws. And this is by William M. Stewart, and it was written in 1885. So, this whole game is most definitely not new. But it really gives one pause as to how long this nonsense has been going on. And it's about the war on silver and the European bond markets and holders, and does bring up the Rothschilds and what was the other name of that outfit? It's actually a very interesting read. So I don't know if I'm going to have to load it up on my blog or if I can actually somehow copy it and drag it or paste it into, let me see if I can do this. I'd like people to go through this if they can. Let's see if I can copy this and paste it into the chat. I think people will find this interesting, and I don't have a direct connection to Hal, but I think he might find this interesting as well. So I'm going to try and, it's not going to let me paste it in there. I'll have to, I will likely have to get it up on a site somewhere, on my blog or whatever, and then, no, it's not going to let me paste it. Damn. So I'll have to do it the hard way. Anyways, where did that get to? Anyways, this bondholders conspiracy. Now, let me see where I don't even remember what the, what it says down here near the end. Let me try and get this to the end. We don't have too much time. There's only a couple of pages in here you can't read, so you're getting absolutely most of the book. I think there's 3 pages or something in this that doesn't come up, and that's pretty good. This is the last page of this thing, the 43rd page. The cotton planters of the South and the wheat growers of the Northwest and the Pacific Coast have suffered in their European market for several years by a ruinous competition with India, resulting from cheap silver and dear gold. If the law of 1878 is repealed and the price of silver is still further reduced, the advantages of the importer of wheat and cotton from India over the importer of the same articles from the United States in every European market will be greatly increased. No one will deny that the demonetization of silver would stop silver mining, but the fact that it would also stop one of the principal supplies of gold is not generally understood. Most of the great silver mines of the world contain a large percentage of gold. The average amount of gold in the ores of the Comstock exceeds 40% of their value. If silver mining is stopped, it will not pay to work the so-called silver mines for the gold alone. The silver mines will be closed down, and the source of supply, which furnishes a large percentage, perhaps 1/2 of the annual product of gold in the world, will be cut off. Every industry in the United States will be injured by the demonetization of silver. The only possible good that has been or can be suggested from the attack upon silver is to enhance the value of bonds and furnish an excuse for further subsidies to national banks. The government of the United States does not exist for these 2 favored classes alone, and time will come when the people will rise against the now apparently overwhelming power of the combination of European syndicates and American bankers. And that's from 1885. It's a good book. It's worth to read. It really, truly is. We've been screwed. Well, it's just like this. We've been lied to since the day we were born. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We have been lied to, and that's just the way it is. They make a lot of good arguments in here for silver and what it did let me see. Okay, let me just try this out here. I guess we got a few minutes left. Sham pretenses of bondholders is page 7 or something. The various excuses put forth by the bondholders for the demonetization of silver are insulting to the understanding of mankind. They say they prefer gold because it is more convenient than silver. They might as well tell us that they prefer platinum because it is more convenient than gold. It's not a question of convenience, it's a question of common honesty. The object of demonetizing silver can not be concealed by such sham pretenses. It is to enhance the value of securities. History of the bondholders' war for contraction. The efforts to contract the coin of the world for the benefit of the bondholders commenced more than 30 years ago. Now, this book was written in 1885. So he said this with the bondholders commenced more than 30 years ago. Exaggerated reports from the gold fields of California and Australia brought forth appeals from Chevalier and other representatives of the European bondholders for demonetization of gold with the avowed purpose of increasing the value of the bonds. Germany and Austria in 1857 actually demonetized gold in the interest of the bondholders. France favored the demonetization of one of the precious metals, but seemed to think it was best to demonetize silver and contract the world's money to a gold standard. After years of discussion, the French Monetary Commission of 1869 came to the following conclusions. As governments control the weight and standard of money, they ought, so far as possible, to ensure its value. And it is admitted that the tendency of the metals is to depreciate. This tendency should be arrested by demonetizing one of them. And now, see, the debt of America, the bonds, were payable in gold or silver, okay? And it never changed, really. And so there's this big conspiracy going on. And what it did was it actually robbed what they call in this book the laborers. That would be us down here at the bottom. It robbed them, and it gave benefit to the bondholders and the security people who really don't do anything. Like governments, they're there to screw with you. The only reason signed by Chevalier, the Monetary Commission of France, and other representatives of bondholders for the demonetization of one of the metals was the appreciation of the value of bonds. They did not pretend that the people at large would be benefited by the demonetization of either metal, but boldly declared that it would increase the value of bonds, and that such was their purpose. So we have now a war for contraction concentrated on the demonetization of silver. I got to get this book up. People need to read this stuff. These old books, you know. The problem is most people, you see, we went through a school system exactly like I said to Randy in that thing. Knowledge is power. And they withheld most knowledge from us. Okay? Because behind the scenes, not the government, that's just a smokescreen. Behind the scenes, there's this, unseen hand, if you will, running the show. Okay, so we're not privy. We're never privy to what's actually going on because we're not going to get it from the media. But there's a lot of information in these old books, that people need to understand. If we had been taught anything of any use in school, we would own the land that our homes sit on, okay? We would have a system which needs to be put in place immediately of tariffs because, as I've said before, if they're using coal plants, they built 500 coal plants, they're trying to shut out, well, we don't have any left in Ontario, they shut them all down. We're sending all of that coal and stuff to the Far East. And as Morris Strong said, nobody can compete with us because we've got the cheapest labor. Well, you don't only have the cheapest labor, you now have the cheapest electricity. So how are you going to compete with that? You can't. Okay, so if it costs $1 to make a pair of shoes in China, obviously all of our shoe factories are going to close over here, which I think they already have. Our garment industries have closed. We don't make anything, folks. We don't make anything. Okay? The America and Australia and Canada, these are great nations full of resources, but we're not using our benefit. Okay? That makes us pretty damn stupid. Now, people say, well, you're anti-competition. No, I'm absolutely pro-competition, always have been, but you can't have a competition. I've said this before. If you can make a shoe for $1 using slave labor, and it costs us here, in order to have a decent livelihood, $10 to make the same shoe, then we are going to have to stuff a $9 tariff upon those shoes coming in. Failure to do so wipes out our businesses, which is the plan, to destroy the West, okay, to bring it to its frickin' knees. And we're almost on our knees now, so we better stand up while we still can. So we put a tariff on everything coming in here that we don't make. If we don't make it, fine, bring it in. But if we have the capacity to make it with our resources, with our labor, then we make it. And anybody trying to undermine that is going to be hammered with a tariff. That's called intelligent trade. Free trade is a race to the bottom. Whoever got the cheapest labor, cheapest electricity, cheapest power wins the race. Everybody else suffers because of it. You can't possibly hold the lifestyle of the West when you're competing with what we're competing with. Okay, but as far as competition goes, I'm all pro-competition. If the Chinese or the Filipinos or whoever make a better shoe, okay, and they're priced in the same range, in a range that allows us to build footwear here, then if they make a better shoe or the style of the shoe is better, this is up to the consumers. The consumers decide who wins in a competition. Okay, so if our shoe manufacturers here make a garbage shoe and they're ugly, buys them, and you go out of business, that's your problem. Okay, that's your fault. It has nothing to do with the competition. It's your fault because you were just incapable of making something that people wanted and that would wear well, and so on and so forth. So that's the real competition. You can't put a one-legged guy up against a top-notch runner and hit the pistol and expect that to be a fair competition. They would laugh you out of the stadium. You can't do that. It's not fair. That's not a competition. And it's the same thing we have going on here. So anyways, to Randy Hillier, I'm going to sue your ass, my friend. Trust me on this one. I'm going to enjoy every minute of it, and we're going to put some paperwork out on you. And we got to go get these guys, okay? And I'm going to try and get this book up somehow so other people can read it. And if not, I'll figure out where I got it from. They just come in my email now. And I don't have time to do that, so I will get this out to people. And it's very important that we read these things. You know, we only look short term. Like, vote Trump. I mean, geez. Vote Bernie? Come on. You know, face it, Hillary's getting in. God forbid. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who gets in because none of them work for you. None of them can work for you because they don't take an oath to represent you. They take an oath in the States to represent the state, not the people. In Canada, to represent the head of state, not the people. Okay, that's it for tonight. And we'll be back Saturday night on Revolution Radio, 10 to midnight. Broadcast on WCY. We're back here Sunday at 2 on Live. Thank you everybody for listening.